Think about the absolute absurdity of your morning routine. You wake up, look at a pile of fabric, and carefully decide which combination of colors and textures best represents your inner self to the world. If you saw a squirrel wearing a tiny knitted cardigan, you would assume it was having a psychological crisis. Yet, humans are the only species on this planet obsessed with putting on clothes. We are the bizarre, naked outliers of the animal kingdom. Every other mammal gets a free, built-in coat of fur. Bears do not worry about seasonal trends, and lions do not suffer from wardrobe malfunctions. So, why did we trade our natural protective fur for a lifetime of laundry cycles? The answer lies millions of years ago on the scorching African savanna. Our ancestors made a massive evolutionary gamble. As we transitioned from tree climbers to upright long-distance walkers, we faced a deadly enemy: heat stroke. Running under the relentless tropical sun meant our brains would literally cook if we could not cool down. The solution was the naked ape hypothesis. We slowly shed our thick insulating fur to expose our skin to the wind. In its place, we developed millions of sweat glands, turning our entire bodies into highly efficient evaporative cooling systems. We could run for hours, dumping heat faster than any furry predator on the plains. But this brilliant biological upgrade had a major catch. While it kept us cool during the scorching day, it left us shivering and defenseless when the temperature plummeted at night. By solving the overheating problem, we accidentally created a freezing problem. We had become naked, vulnerable, and desperate for a way to cheat the system. Solving the mystery of when humans first started wearing clothes is a massive archaeological headache. Unlike stone tools or fossilized bones, ancient animal skins and grass skirts rot away into absolute nothingness. We cannot just dig up a prehistoric closet to see what was fashionable during the Ice Age. Because of this, scientists had to look for clues in the most disgusting place possible: parasite DNA. Welcome to the bizarre case of the Evolutionary Lice Detective Agency. This investigation exposes a massive timeline mismatch. We lost our natural body fur millions of years ago, yet we did not start wearing clothes immediately. For a vast stretch of history, we were just wandering around, completely naked. To find out when that ended, we must look at our tiny passengers. Humans host two very specific types of these pests: head lice, which cling directly to the hair on our scalps, and body lice, which actually live in our clothing. Body lice are lazy travelers. They cannot survive on naked skin alone. They need the fabric of our wraps to cling to, only crawling onto our skin for a quick meal, before retreating back into the safety of the weave. This biological quirk means that body lice physically could not have existed before humans started wearing clothes. By comparing the genetic codes of these two microscopic cousins, evolutionary biologists calculated exactly when they split from their common ancestor. The DNA analysis reveals that body lice diverged from head lice somewhere between 70,000 and 170,000 years ago. This molecular clock gives us the earliest concrete timeline for the birth of fashion. Our ancestors wore wraps and skins so consistently that they accidentally created a brand new ecological niche. It was a massive technological turning point, written not in stone, but in the genetic code of a tiny, itchy parasite. Once our ancestors took that first step into the world of outfits, clothes quickly became much more than a simple shield against the cold. In fact, many of the earliest garments were worn in warm tropical climates, where freezing to death was never a threat. Instead, these primitive wraps acted as a crucial form of skin armor. Without a thick coat of fur, human skin is incredibly fragile and exposed. Wandering through thorny brush, climbing jagged rocky cliffs, and wrestling wild game left our ancestors constantly vulnerable to deep cuts, painful scratches, and deadly infections. Wrapping ourselves in animal skins or tough bark fibers gave us a replaceable outer layer that absorbed the damage instead of our own flesh. It was a major biological upgrade, a secondary skin that we could discard when it got ruined. But as these protective wraps became a daily habit, they began to serve a deeper psychological purpose. Before clothing, humans used temporary body paint made of colored clay and red ochre to communicate. This body art showed who belonged to which tribe, who was a successful hunter, or who held spiritual authority. The obvious problem with mud and pigment is that it washes away in the rain or wears off during a long trek. Wrapping the body in skins and plant fibers allowed humans to attach permanent symbols directly to their bodies. A rare predator hide or a decorative row of shells could not be easily washed away by a sudden thunderstorm. Clothing transformed from simple physical protection into complex social signaling. It became the world's very first billboard, telling everyone exactly who you were, what you had conquered, and where you belonged in the hierarchy of the tribe, before you even opened your mouth. We transitioned from temporary body art to permanent fashion statement, turning survival gear into the ultimate display of prehistoric status. As humans migrated out of the warm African cradle and headed north, they ran headfirst into a massive environmental wall, the Ice Age. Draping a loose mammoth skin over your shoulders might look heroic in cave paintings, but it is actually a terrible way to stay warm in a blizzard. Whew. Loose hides have huge gaps that let freezing winds howl inside and trap moisture, which quickly freezes and causes hypothermia. To conquer the frozen north, humanity needed a massive technology upgrade, and it came in the form of a tiny, sharp tool, the bone needle. Developed around 50,000 years ago, this small invention completely changed the course of human history. By carving animal bones, antlers, or mammoth ivory into thin, pointed shafts and drilling a tiny eye at the end, our ancestors created the ultimate survival tool. The bone needle allowed humans to do something they had never done before: tailor their clothing. Instead of wearing loose wraps, they could now cut hides to fit the specific shape of their limbs. They stitched tight, windproof seams that kept the cold air out and trapped body heat inside. This created a personal warm microclimate right next to the skin. For the very first time, fitted shirts, trousers, boots, and hoods were born. With this new technology, humans could survive in regions that were previously completely uninhabitable. They could hunt in sub-zero temperatures, sleep in snowy shelters, and travel across frozen tundras for weeks. The bone needle acted as our ticket to global expansion. It allowed us to march through Siberia, cross the icy Bering Land Bridge, and ultimately colonize the Americas. We did not need to grow thick fur or wait for evolutionary changes to survive the extreme cold. Instead, we used our minds and our needles to stitch together a portable tropical environment, turning fragile apes into masters of the Arctic. While modern humans like to take all the credit for prehistoric innovation, we were not the only fashionistas walking the Pleistocene Earth. Long before Homo sapiens stepped foot in Europe, our evolutionary cousins the Neanderthals had already been surviving harsh glacial cycles for hundreds of thousands of years. They could not have done this naked. For a long time, popular culture depicted Neanderthals as dim-witted brutes, wearing messy, unstyled animal skins draped over their shoulders. But archaeology tells a much more sophisticated story. By studying the microscopic wear patterns on prehistoric stone tools, scientists discovered that Neanderthals spent a massive amount of time processing animal hides. They used specialized stone scrapers to clean fat and tissue off skins, turning stiff, raw hides into soft, flexible leather. To assemble their garments, they did not necessarily use eyed needles, but they did use bone awls to punch precise holes through thick leather, threading them together with animal sinew or plant fibers. They even manufactured the world's first synthetic glue by heating birch bark to create a sticky pitch, which they used to haft tools and secure clothing parts. Meanwhile, in Siberia, our mysterious Denisovan cousins were also showcasing impressive craftsmanship. Excavations in the Denisova cave revealed beautiful bone needles and polished greenstone bracelets, proving that they possessed highly advanced technology and a clear appreciation for aesthetic beauty. Neanderthals did not just dress for warmth either, they also cared about how they looked. Archaeological sites show they carefully harvested eagle talons, colorful bird feathers, and shells, using them as necklaces or decorative trims for their leather gear. These choices were not random. They were deliberate visual signals of identity and status. So, the next time you put on a heavy winter coat, remember that you are not practicing a uniquely human tradition. You are actually carrying on a deep, shared legacy of hominin style that our cousins perfected long before we arrived on the scene. As the ice sheets finally began to retreat, human ingenuity took a massive leap forward. We moved beyond simply skinning animals and began transforming the environment into something entirely new. Instead of wearing heavy, stiff hides, we looked to the plant world. In the Republic of Georgia, archaeologists discovered wild flax fibers dating back over 30,000 years. Oh, these fibers were not just raw plants. They were spun, knotted, and dyed in vibrant shades of pink, turquoise, yellow, and black. This was the birth of textiles. We were no longer just covering ourselves, we were inventing fabric. The invention of weaving allowed for lighter, more breathable garments that could be easily washed, repaired, and styled. As agriculture took root thousands of years later, domesticating sheep for wool and cultivating cotton transformed clothing from a survival necessity into a massive global industry. Along with this technological shift came a deep psychological change. The transition from survival gear to woven textiles amplified our ability to communicate without speaking. Color, pattern, and drape became a new language. A dyed tunic could signal wealth, a specific weave could identify your tribe, and certain ornaments could display your social rank. This prehistoric signaling is the direct ancestor of the modern fashion industry. Today, when you choose a graphic tee, a designer jacket, or a pair of sneakers, you are using the exact same prehistoric mechanism to project your identity to the tribe around you. We are still the same naked apes, using thin layers of thread to tell the world who we want to be. Our clothes protect us from the elements, but they also protect our fragile social identities. It makes you wonder about the path not taken. Would you go back in time and live completely naked? Let me know in the comments.